All right, so thank you so much for joining me today. So
My
what is
pleasure.
it like
Thank you.
covering the Trump White House?
It is a roller coaster ride, and it never stops, basically. I cover it with an incredible team of journalists over at NBC News, and we have a pretty intense sort of schedule just because there is always developments. Even as we speak, things are happening out at the White House, and you're sort of always engaged, you're always working your sources, you're always talking to folks. And especially right now, we're in the middle of a real moment in history, only the fourth ever sort of impeachment of a president. And so every day is game day. You show up, you have a lot of work to do. You got to sort of do your job and do it well.
Yeah, so with the 2020 election coming up, what do you think is going to be different from covering 2020 than it was in 2016?
For me personally, I'll be attached to one candidate, which I hasn't happened for me. The last cycle, I started off covering basically every Republican other than Donald Trump. Remember, we had something like 17 of them running in 2015 and 2016. And so for NBC News, I was sort of assigned to whoever was sort of polling well at the time. I was dipping in and out to various campaigns, ended up covering a lot of Senator Rubio, a lot of Senator Cruz, others as well, before Donald Trump took the nomination. And then I was on him with the rest of our NBC team full time. In this instance, the President Trump, based on our reporting, will be on the road so much in 2020. So I think being attached to just him and just that campaign will be an interesting development. I also now have an MSNBC show full time, which I didn't have for much of the 2016 campaign until the very end. So I've had about 2 months worth of experience juggling a campaign and the show. Now it's going to be, I'm going to go into a full year of having to do that. Yeah, which is amazing.
Yeah, so what are some challenges that you face covering someone as controversial as President Donald Trump?
Listen, as a journalist, you just do your job, right? The guiding light for me are two things. Tom Brokaw said this to me when I first started in this position. He said a principle for them that they followed during the Watergate scandal, the whole thing, was follow the facts. Follow the facts, and that's what you have to do. You have to find out what the facts are. You have to talk to a lot of people. You have to triangulate your sources. You have to figure out what it is that you know and can say the phrase, NBC News has learned, based on my reporting. That's what you're going for every single day. That's what you wake up and want to do. And the other piece of it is making sure that you're holding people in power to account. None of that changes, no matter who you're talking to or who you are covering. And those are sort of the principles that I think for me and for many people on our team is really what they're focused on there, is how do you do that on a daily basis? We also have the fun challenge, I think, of I have a cable show, which is great because I have segments I can do, talk about different topics, talk about different subjects. And then on, for example, Nightly News, you have 90 seconds to make sense of this crazy complicated story that is impeachment, or that is the trade war, or that is an e-cigarette vaping ban, whatever the case may be. And you're working to craft that. You mentioned you really like writing, Grace. I love writing. And that is another sort of storytelling craft that you get to work your muscle on.
Yeah, so what do you have a specific key moment that you remember that really got you passionate into politics and reporting?
That's a great question. I've always sort of gravitated or been drawn towards political journalism ever since I was in college. I was a political science major at a school in Baltimore. Before I even wanted to get into communications or journalism, I thought I was going to be a print reporter actually for a little while. I remember telling one of my professors, I want to write for the New York Times. And then I got bitten by the broadcast bug. I love the immediacy of putting sort of images with words and the power that can have, and the power it can have to show somebody saying something directly, right? Whether it's sort of a regular person that you're out interviewing for local news, whether it's the President of the United States, I think there's some real value in that. And I think that in this moment in time, there's nothing else I'd rather be doing than covering politics. It is quite literally the front row to history. Just yesterday, I guess it was, I was standing on the South Lawn. The president came out on this very critical day of this impeachment hearing, and I'm on the end, and he's holding a notebook with his handwritten notes. And they were all, you're right there. And I'm taking pictures with my iPhone, of his notebook with his own handwriting on that in that Sharpie, what appeared to be his own handwriting. And moments like that are when you go, man, take a step back. You're in it, and it means you have to be on your game every minute. We have a list. I was armed yesterday with a list of questions to ask the president if he were to answer them. He chose not to. I wish he had done differently, but I always feel that way when he doesn't answer our questions.
Do you have any advice for any aspiring young journalists who are trying to start out?
Yeah, and it's advice that Cokie Roberts gave me when I was just a college kid myself. I cornered her at this conference that I was at a national conference, and asked her for some advice. I was going through kind of a personal difficulty of, do I transfer away from the school? Do I stay in the school? I didn't know her. I'd never met her. It was the only interaction we ever had. And she said to me, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what you major in. It doesn't matter any of that. You just have to be curious. stay curious and stay hungry and ask the questions. And to me, that's what it all comes down to. How do you ask the questions? What's a way that you're going to draw information out that is going to be illuminating to your viewers or to your readers? And that is something that has really stuck with me. I never had a chance to tell Cookie Roberts that before she passed away, and it's one of my great regrets.
Well, thanks so much. I'll take that advice into consideration.
Thank you, Grace.
Well,
That's
thank you
great.
so much for sitting down with me today. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.